Alright, so let's get this login screen actually doing something. So I'm just going to go into my element designer here, right click on the login screen, go to open, go to the login screen controller. So since we have a login button, or a login command, I can override the login. Right, so here we'd probably call a service, call some other thing that you have set up, but that's maybe for another tutorial. We're just going to hard code some username and password checks here and run with it. So let's do login screen dot username is equal to uframe, and login screen dot password is also equal to uframe. Just for demonstration purposes, we'll do unity engine.debug.log, and we'll do login successful. Otherwise, let's do login screen dot error message equals the username and password was incorrect. There we go. And since we've already connected all of our bindings and wired up the login button, we should be good to go. So let's hit play. And if we try to log in, you can see the error message there popped up because we didn't enter them incorrectly. Let's go ahead and type in the correct values, and we get a debug log, login successful. It was that simple. So the key thing to note here is that our controller has all of the logic, and our view is completely dumb of any of the logic. It just knows that it has an error message, a username, and a password, and that it should correctly update anything if any of those change. Right now all we've seen is the error message changed. And we're not even going to hook up the username change, but I went ahead and did them anyways, because you might want to save the username maybe into the user preferences and then reload them, and that's where your controller would come in handy to populate those values, and it would update the screen. So moving on, what we want to do now is hook the menu screens up to this active property, so that whenever we set this active to true, it's going to actually show or hide the screen. But we're not going to go manually add that to both views, the main menu screen view and the login screen view. We want to have that applied to every menu screen we might create for our main menu. Let's do that by going to menu screen view. And let's go to open menu screen view. And I'm just going to do a public override active changed. And right here, we'll just do this.gameObject.setActive value. So this is a more literal binding. But one of the other key things to note here is when this active is changed, I could make the menu slide in, slide out, fade in, fade out. I could add all of that visual logic right here. That's what views are for. So now we need to go activate the binding for both of these. So let's go turn the active on. We'll turn the active on for this one. And go ahead and just check the initialized view model, and we're going to keep its active as nothing, because it's not going to be our start screen. So the next thing we want to do is actually let's go ahead and wire up this collections. So for each one of our menu screens in our scene, we wanted to initialize our main menu scene view model with the screens that already exist in the scene. So we're going to do this by going to our main menu scene view, which we just added to the panel. And we're going to check the binding for menu screens. And we want to say scene first because our objects already exist in the scene. And the container, we don't yet have a container for it. So let's go ahead and add one to it. So go up to game object and do create empty child. And we'll call this menu screens. And I'm just going to drag both of these under that container. Clicking back on our main menu scene view, let's add our container to our container property on our menu screen's binding. So now when the scene loads, it'll register each child under the container. And our view model will be properly set up with the correct view models corresponding to the view model for login and the view model for main menu. So now we need the code that will actually set this active property to true for a specific window. So we're going to create a generic method that will activate these properties by passing in a window that we want to activate. So we're going to go in our main menu scene and open up its controller. And I'm going to just copy in some methods here. And I created these beforehand. And basically all these do is just hide all the windows and then show all the windows. So this first method is going to loop through each menu screen that's in our menu screens collection. It's going to set it to false. And then after we've hidden everything, we're going to set the active to true. Now there's one thing to note, we don't have to worry about our binding being triggered because it's only going to trigger when the value changes. So if it's already hidden, we don't have to worry about our view doing anything extra that's unwanted. And I just created a additional generic method here that takes a type of a view model. So we could pass in the view model for whichever screen that we wanted to show. And we just loop through our collection and find that menu screen. And then we just call that method we just talked about, show window menu screen. I'm going to go add one more here on the initialize. And remember when we created the start screen, just for reference, I'm going to actually show that upon initialization. So show window, and we want to do main menu scene, start screen. There we go. So that's all we need to do. We practically have a fully functioning menu system. So now on our login screen controller, we need to actually do something when they log in successfully. So we can access the controller right from here. So we'll do main menu scene controller, where we just added those methods. And we'll do show window. And we'll do main menu screen view model. There we go. Switch back to Unity. Hit the play button. And now when we type in U-frame and U-frame, and you can see nothing showed up here. But this is because our scene started out with a deactivated object. And when this happens, there's not much you can do to get around it. It's built into Unity. It doesn't initialize the bindings whenever it's deactivated. So you just want to make sure that's checked to be active. So now let's try that one more time. And there we go. We've successfully switched to another scene. So there you go. We've successfully switched to another screen. It's as simple as that. So since it was that easy, let's go ahead and just wire up our log off button. So we'll want to go to our main menu screen, open the controller, and let's do public override log off. And let's call our main menu scene controller property and do our show window. And what we'll do here is login screen view model. There we go. Hit the play button. And when we click log off, we go right back. And that's it for this tutorial. That's it for this part. In the next part, we'll create a transition whenever we click on the play button.